Hey, Wannabe Gamer here with another Top War Hero Spotlight. Today we're going to be talking about the Air Force hero tycoon Rockfield. I apologize in advance if I call him Rockefeller, force of habit, but Rockfield will be going over some of his strengths, weaknesses, uses, who he pairs well with, as well as some recommendations for his perks and skills that work very well on him. And ladies, I don't know if you've noticed this man's big feet, but you know what they say about big feet. Big socks! He's also very wealthy. His wealth does come from war, however, he's devoted himself to creating a super weapon that can end all wars, and to me that sounds an awful lot like a nuke, which is a fair description of his exclusive skill, Punisher. Now, it does have a lot of conditions. It's a little bit complicated, so let's see if we can break it down. The first condition is all your units have to be Air Force for this ability to work. So every single unit that's in there has to be Air Force. You don't have to have all 9 stacks filled with Air Force, but all the units you do have to be Air Force. But if all your units are Air Force, you're able to launch a bomb at the enemy at the very beginning of the battle that at max stats will cause 23% of the enemy's max health as damage. Now, this does ignore the enemy's damage decrease, but it also ignores your damage increase. So when it says 23%, it does mean 23%. However, armor buff does seem to still reduce this damage a little bit, so something to be aware of. And other things that can reduce this ability's damage is actually in the ability itself. Now, the game will average out the level of all your units in your march, and then average out the level of all your enemies' units. If your enemy's level is higher than yours on average, it'll reduce the damage that this ability does by 50% per level. So by a 1 level difference, you're only doing 50% damage, 2 levels, 25% damage, 3 levels, 12.5% damage. So something to keep in mind. Even if you're max level and you're using level 80s, you still need to keep this in mind because people do have level 81s and 82s. Something else that can reduce the damage even farther is march size. If the enemy has a larger march size than you, for every 1% gap there is, it reduces your damage by 1%. So if you're looking to get a bigger march size, I do have a video on there. I'll link that and put it in the description below. But keep that in mind. If you're attacking a larger march size than yours, it will reduce your damage. Now, another thing is if this ability hits Navy, it's actually able to reduce their damage by 23% at max stats for 2 rounds. So not only are you reducing the stack size by just killing them, but you're also reducing their damage even farther with this ability. So this is an absolute must-have hero. He's very good for Air Force specialists, and he's very strong. You just need to keep that in mind if you're attacking someone who has a larger march size or a higher level than you. Now, I do have an example of his ability. Something that's interesting about his ability is it will actually trigger before any other hero's ability. So if you attack an enemy that produces a shield or some additional HP, his ability will actually attack before anybody else's. So for example, here, Valere, her ability didn't trigger until after his bomb went through. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. So if your enemy has something that increases HP, you're able to hit the enemy before that HP procs, reducing their stack size. So you're reducing their damage and reducing the effectiveness of HP increases or shields that they're getting. Now, as far as who he pairs well with, I would recommend Lady Zyzak. She has a chance of making it so the enemy is unable to attack. Also, Dante is a very good pick. He's able to increase attack and HP, so you get that survivability as well as the attack boost. If you're short on some orange heroes, another good one would be Ricardo. He's the best purple Air Force hero to use. He increases their crit rate. Now, as far as the strengths and uses of Rockfield, the strengths would be, of course, Navy. He reduces their damage. Air Force has additional damage towards Navy. So he's going to be great at taking down anybody's Navy, which means he's probably going to be pretty good for objectives because people tend to put Navy in objectives while defending their base with Army. Now, his weaknesses, of course, would be Army. So you don't really want to take this guy up against Army because for his ability to work, you have to be running all Air Force. So they'll be able to take full advantage of the fact that you're using Air Force. And attacking anybody who is a higher level than you or has a larger march size, like mentioned before, is definitely a weakness. As far as his uses, anti-Navy, he's also fantastic for the expeditions if you're not at the very end of it, because at the very end of expeditions, the enemy's levels can get in the 90s, so you do lose some abilities on his exclusive skill, but still great to be using as you're leveling up the expeditions. He's also very good for PvP because a lot of people run Navy because so few people run Air Force. Now, as far as the skills that I would recommend putting on him, I would not use his exclusive skill unless you have it at least, say, level 5, maybe level 4. Just like most of the other heroes in the game, you don't really want to use their exclusive skill unless you've leveled it up a little bit. So, like I said, at least level 5, maybe level 4. The other skills that you can use on him would be attack increase, damage increase, march increase, as well as damage reduction. Now, if you're looking at dropping one of those because you do have a high enough exclusive skill, I would recommend either dropping the attack increase or the damage reduction skill. You're going to want to keep the march size and the damage increase. Now, as far as perks, like all heroes, when you get him to 5 stars, you're able to unlock perks, and the best perks for Rockfield would be all unit attack, all unit HP, and then there is Air Force attack and Air Force HP. So all unit attack and HP, and then Air Force attack and HP would be the 4 perks that work best on him. Now, as far as how you get him, he is available in Premium and Elite Recruiting in the Air Force section, of course, for the Elite Recruiting. So he is a fairly easy hero to get. He is considered one of the free heroes. That's all I have to say about him. Let me know what your opinion is down below. Let me know if you've been hit by this guy, because he just hits like a truck. Like, subscribe, don't forget to let your alliance know that I'm here, and as always, have a fantastic day.